thanks so much for being with us, man. How are you doing?
I'm good. It's great to be with you guys. St. Francis Xavier is one of my heroes, so it's an honor to be here with you guys and talk about this today.
Well, today is the feast day of St. Francis Xavier. Tell us why the Institute is releasing a small volume of his letters.
Yeah, so we, for several years, the Institute of Jesuit Sources, we've had a publication that includes all of the letters of St. Francis Xavier, which is available today in a great volume. And we've also been working on creating something that will be more, easier to sift through for the average Catholic. And the reason we started this is that really his letters are incredibly inspiring. Personally, I read the letters and I'm ready to sell everything I have and go be a missionary. And my wife always puts an end to that pretty quickly. But in all seriousness, these letters served as huge sources of inspiration, even during Francis Xavier's life. They were disseminated throughout Europe, and one writer referred to them as, like Catholic action adventure movies of the day. People would read these and anticipate these letters from Francis Xavier. And really, he was a man completely on fire with the love of God, willing to endure pretty much anything for the mission. People often have compared him to St. Paul, and I think it's an appropriate comparison. He was a missionary for over 12 years and traveled over 60,000 miles. So just an incredible breadth of work that he did. And there's two things that I'd note that come across strongly from his letters. One, he was a man of incredible action. People often note when they read his letters that oftentimes there's a lack of elegance. There's run-on sentences and sometimes a lack of coherence. And there's a very profound reason for that. It's because he was working so hard. He was singularly focused on service of his neighbor. And really completely focused on love of his neighbor and working for them. He addressed corruption and material needs in the societies that he came across, but what he really cared about was people's souls. And then the other thing that I just briefly mentioned is he's a man of perseverance and of hope. The circumstances that he faced as a missionary and that he endured are absolutely mind-boggling. Shipwrecks, pirates, cannibals, being imprisoned, starvation, constant illness and disease, and the list could go on and on. But he never gave up, even to his dying day. And there's a beautiful story that one of the group of islands that he went to, it was nicknamed the Islands of Death because of how many issues people had there. And he wrote a letter from those islands saying that they should be called the Islands of the Hope of God. And he wrote, "Never have I been happier elsewhere, nor more continuously." So his perspective while, enduring all these insane trials where people saw death and despair, he saw the hope and the love of God. So really an inspiring witness for us.
That's amazing, yeah. We were mentioning as Bishop Reed is celebrating the Founders Masses at St. John's Prep and Xaverian Brothers High School. But how's the Institute been celebrating?
Yeah, so our institute is all about depth in the Jesuit tradition, knowing our roots, but also with an eye toward the future. And a lot of the work that we do is scholarly and research-oriented, but we also have a lot of resources and programming for typical Catholics and for those with interest in Jesuit spirituality. So two things in light of this that we've done over the past year or so. We created a self-run retreat called the Manresa Ignatian Retreat, which uses a book that we published called Finding Christ in the World. And a lot of individuals have done this retreat. It's been particularly helpful during the pandemic. And now we're seeing that groups of people are doing it. It's very easy to run and implement, and parishes are doing it as well. So that's been great. We also recently released a new edition of Pedro Arrupe's writings on the devotion of the Sacred Heart. So as probably many of our viewers know, the Sacred Heart from its beginnings has a very deep connection to the Jesuits. The Society of Jesus was consecrated to the Sacred Heart in the 1800s, and Pedro Arrupe actually reconsecrated the Society to the Sacred Heart during his leadership. So he had a very deep devotion to the Sacred Heart, and so we re-released his writings on them.
Well, Matt, it's always a pleasure. Where can people get a copy of the Letters of St. Francis and follow the great work of the Institute of Advanced Jesuit Studies?
Yeah, so for our publications, going onto our website, jesuitsources.bc.edu, and then the best way is to follow us on social media. Our handle is at IAJSBC, and if people sign up for our newsletter, they'll keep in touch with our programming and our publications.
Always a pleasure, Matt. Have a great Advent, a Merry Christmas, and stay well.